Tilo Mekamna. Good morning to day 3. Very exciting to be here with our other anchor session voices, our collective mind up here this morning. Really honored to help facilitate this discussion. And Elizabeth, if you can't hear me good, just do that, and I'll be louder. And all of us, so we can all share, and you can hear. Can you hear okay right now? Okay. So to open us up, I just wanted to, again, share a little bit from Dr. Rita Blumenstein. And there's something about 3 that is special. And so this is the 3rd day you're going to hear a quote or several quotes from Dr. Rita Blumenstein to open us up. And then we've got several questions for our fellow speakers here this morning. So, of course, Dr. Rita Blumenstein is here in spirit right now, and we invite her as our ancestor and all of our ancestors who are here to support us on this journey of well-being and healing. The past is not a burden. It is a scaffold which brought us to this day. We are free to be who we are, to create our own life out of our past and out of our present. We are our ancestors. When we can heal ourselves, we can also heal our ancestors, our grandmothers, our grandfathers, and our children. When we heal ourselves, we heal Mother Earth. To heal is to become ourselves, to become the light within. It is to accept ourselves and what we feel, and in doing so, accept others. It is to be a real person. Memory eternal, Dr. Rita Blumenstein, who's continuing to be with us and encourage us as we move towards healing and healing our next generations. And so the focus of today's session is healing. And I'm going to have each one of our speakers today introduce themselves. I've introduced myself multiple times, but if there's anybody new, I'm Dr. Gary Ferguson. I've been working in wellness and prevention for pretty much my whole life, in my own journey of healing, as well as a doctor now, and the last 20 years in Alaska, and really honored to continue this journey with you. And, again, I just want to say it's so beautiful to see the young people who are coming up and are passionate about the work. And there's a generation of knowledge here in this room, as well as multiple generations that will go before us as we think about healing. And it just, to me, fills my heart with such joy as we look at the legacy of work, and certain things that wouldn't have happened at a conference like this are happening. Certain things that we've done, and for some of us, it's a little bit outside of our comfort zone, because we're often not used to talking about things spiritual or things cultural in a way as we talk about our ancestors. What a powerful concept to be able to understand that we are our ancestors, and our ancestors are here for us. It's a beautiful way of understanding our connection and also our responsibility. So I'm going to have each one of our speakers today introduce themselves in their way, and then we will get to our questions. And so how about we start with our elder to introduce yourself. Kagasukuk.
Good morning. I didn't hear you. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I was going to walk in this morning and someone said, "You're on a panel this morning." No, I'm not. I'm here for the healing circle that I was invited to participate in. No, you're on the panel this morning. Who put me on here? No. My name is Elizabeth Sunnyboy. I'm originally from Pilot Station. My parents are John and Mary Sunnyboy, both deceased. My grandparents on my dad's side are William and Anna Sunnyboy, both deceased. My grandparents on my mother's side are Paulina and Andrew Chikuyak, both deceased. All my family. most of my family, immediate family, there's only 2 of us, my brother and I left. So I'm honored to be here. I don't know what I'm here for. I was just invited to come in. I mean, I was in a village last week, and when I came back, my coworker said, "You're going to be on panel. I mean, you're going to be presenting next week." I said, "What am I doing?" "You'll find out when you come in." I welcome all of you here. And it's really good to interact and communicate with different people that are helping helping us to heal, and our people to heal also. I've healed through my family that have passed on. I've learned to accept that, but they've left me many gifts to share with other people in the line of work that I do. Dr. Rita Blumenstein passed away 5 years ago. But before she passed, I was invited to a dinner by 3 members of the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium, the behavioral health person, another three other people, and they said that Dr. Rita Blumenstein was going to retire, and that they needed just someone to replace her. And I said, "Okay, do you want me to find somebody?" And they said, "Someone recommended you." No, they didn't. And they said, yes, they did. And that was a shock and a blow to hear, and humbling also, because one of them said, "Dr. Blumenstein recommended you." And who can say no to Grandma Dr. Rita Blumenstein? I said, "I'll think about it." They said they'll give me 2 weeks to respond back. And day before yesterday, I walked in, was told that I was going to be part of this training and taking part in the healing circles. And I thought this was going to be a healing circle again. And then one of the people that met me said, "You're on a panel this morning." "No, I'm not." I said, "Yes, Dr. Ferguson and 2 other people, they're going to be on the panel with you." I like surprises, but not this kind of surprises. It's an honor to be here today, this week too, and to take part in the different sessions we've been having this week. I just came back from 3-day working in a village doing grief and healing, traditional parenting, and traditional value presentation to the school and the village people. So it was kind of arrested for 2 days, and then my coworker said, "You're on a training next week, all week." And so that's where I'm here this week, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Good morning. I feel like I should stand, but because my elder stood. But I'm more comfortable sitting, so if that's okay with you, I'm going to stay sitting. I'm going to try something this morning. I've had a very simple way of introducing myself, and I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into my language, and I've got a couple of cheats up here, so bear with me while I breathe into that and bring my ancestors with me. Ang lesunga apami anamilu masinuk Joseph Masuk Martina Aperazuk. We Atka Bakasak Mary Aperazuk. Egenerka Ababaji Isaac Masuk Talia Slu. Kaneskilu kami Bilmore Slu. Kutlik mi Slu. Kotlik Ginauska. Junomi Wita Duna. Goyana. I've done a much more simplified version of that for years, and I wanted to breathe that in the room because I think that's healing. Our language is our healing. And I just said that I'm Bakasak Mary Aperazuk, and my grandparents are Martina and Joseph Aperazuk, and I'm from Bilmore Slough or Kongolamikiwita in Kotlik. The BLM combined villages back in the 80s. And I live in Juneau right now. So that was my introduction. I currently work with Hatush Lachish in Juneau, which is the violence prevention section of the emergency shelter for domestic violence in Juneau, Alaska, where. And I got invited to talk to you about healing and the ways that we use culture for healing and violence prevention. So I'm really, really honored to be sitting next to a legend that I've heard so many things about. I know Grandma Rita. I remember her fondly by singing the Penny song that she would sing all the time. And yes, I'm just honored to be here. So just breathing that in. Guyana.
Hello, everybody. My truth honors your truth. I feel kind of like awe-inspired to be here already. Actually, just taking in the vibes of the room and listening and feeling the presence of, my ancestors who were, came to what we call the United States and became really the shittiest jobs of all, coal miners, prison guards. I could go on and on. Sometimes the incarcerated. And like probably many immigrants, they continued the tradition of not really having a home. We left, allegedly, homes, or in my ancestors' cases, they were driven out, and they came somewhere else, and they still don't have a home. But we become dupes of those powers that often make us define ourselves. My name is David. Sometimes I'm called D-Dubs by people behind concertina wires and magnet doors. And what I do is, it's a weird thing to say because if I say it, you're gonna have a perception of what I say. I'm a yoga teacher. Yeah, woo, right? You might imagine, like I do when I say those words and I cringe when I say them, Instagram, Facebook, skinny people of certain propensities practicing in very posh boutique studios. And I did some of that, and I was pretty good at it, if I could say. But during that time, I found that I wanted to do more than just liberate people who seemed to, I'm not really sure what they were being liberated from. I wanted to work with those people who didn't have a chance to take advantage of a practice which transcends the wellness industry. A practice that probably has its roots in the northern lands of Siberia, really, more so than it does in LA or New York City, maybe even India. So about, I don't know, the time all slides since COVID. I don't even know what year it is, I feel like, It's like we've been in this weird neutral limbo world. But in 2017, I had a weird idea that I wanted to teach yoga in prison. And part of that was my ancestor journey. My grandpa, Donald Pierce, Irish to the bone, piercing blue eyes. His whole life he was a prison guard, and he was never allowed to be the warden because he didn't have a college degree, because he had to take care of his family after his parents left shortly after the Depression. And for me, that was a mind blow. And since that time, I've left behind studios and gyms, and myself and a couple of trusted advisors, friends, my wife being one of them, we go into places like Anchorage Corrections, McLaughlin Youth Center, North Star, all of those facilities. I could go on and name a whole list, but it's not really about like what we're doing. And we just go and we sit with people, we move with people, we breathe with people, and we try to help people connect. In the words of one boy from Northern Alaska, his yoga, your yoga. And that's really our journey. And sometimes our journey is challenging the status quo with the yoga industry, which is so much not what we do. So I'm really happy and honored to be here. And I just always, when I end up in situations like this, maybe like you a little bit, I'm like, really? You're going to ask me to do something? Like this? And I'm always in awe. Kind of like if you know tarot cards, like the Fool tarot card, kind of like, whoa, there's the cliff. 10 years later, or something like that. So thanks for including me in the circle. Thanks to your wisdom. Thanks, everybody.
Gagasakuk, thank you for joining me and all of us. It is kind of a healing circle. We're just a big circle of circles. So our first question, can you give an example of a time that you knew healing was taking place? In your personal or in your life.
One of the best things in the line of work that I did when I was working for Yukon Kuskokwim Health Corporation was when we started inviting elders to our trainings. Because many of us we grew up in the schools away from our homes, away from the elders, away from our parents. But we also needed the training from our elders. So many of us talked about it, and we started. We made it point to where if we're going to have a conference, we need to invite elders into that conference, because many of us didn't know how to do personal healing, but I knew that our elders had that training among themselves with their people and with their families in many communities before all the things that came in to stop that type of training. So many of us that were in the line of work, the behavioral health and our substance abuse counseling, we also needed information of a traditional way to help our people. So we started inviting elders to our trainings, and we heard from them. And then when an elder stood up, I asked my coworkers, when an elder stands up, please take notes. Take notes what the elders are saying, because what they're saying is going to help us to do the best work we can do for our people in type of the healing work that we were doing. So many of the coworkers, every time an elder stood up, we took notes. And then when that whole training was over, we heard with other people speaking about healing and recovery and different things they brought in to educate us. But the main thing we wanted to get was the information from our elders. And after we got done with that training, we'd go back to our work and we'd have a call-in. Monday morning, we'd have a call-in with all the workers that were at that training. And we exchanged information about what we heard from the elders and from other people. But the main thing we wanted to get hold of was the help from our elders, the best way to help our people to recover. So with that information sharing from the elders, exchanging, and the best way those co-workers can collect the information from the elders, we gathered and we talked about it, and we exchanged information of what we heard. And you started using the elder education from that we received in the trainings that we received, the elder education. We took those and we utilized them in the line of work that we were doing. And that was the best way to, before we did that, the second year, we invited the elders back again and brought the information we received from last year back to them. This is what you said. This is what you wanted us to say to our people. This is the way to educate our young people. And brought it back to the elders, and then they gave us feedback how to do it, correcting, or how to do it best to bring it back to our people again. The third year, when we brought those elders back to our conferences, we brought back the information again, and every time they said, take that information you received from the elders, use it as a teaching tool to young people, to people in general, and even non-natives. And so that's the way we got our training to provide, to help people to heal and to recover from things that they went through. The historical events that affected the Alaska Native people, when we had that sharing in the communities with we always had translators and translators, so that everybody heard what we were sharing. And that was the best way we trained ourselves, and we, along with the elders, to give us the proper way to heal ourselves and to help our families and our people to heal with the information we also received from the elders. And we always provided translating equipment whenever we travel, so that everyone is involved in getting us information how to best way to heal ourselves as Native people. So that's one of the best ways that we worked in interacting with the elders to bring back the healing that our people needed in the communities.
It's such an interesting question, because often knowing about healing is hindsight, right? Oftentimes, when you're in the middle of healing, it's very painful, and you don't know you're healing. I broke my leg a couple of years ago, and had to have emergency surgery, and then had hardware put in. And for a couple of weeks, or for several weeks, and even years, it was very painful. But there was healing going on. And then just a few weeks ago, I got all the hardware taken out. And again, there was a lot of pain after that surgery. And I was like, oh, did I do the wrong thing? It's so painful. But now I'm feeling the results and the healing from that injury. And I was diagnosed with acute depression probably about a handful of years ago, and it was very painful. And so I didn't really know at the time that it was healing. And but what it really was facing the pain that I've been running from for such a long time. My personal method was escaping, and so I ran into the woods, and I talked to the trees, and I was able to avoid the pain of intergenerational trauma and child abuse and domestic violence that had been such a huge part of my everyday life. So I just ran and I ran and I ran, and that's how I dealt with it. And I also did some yoga. But this time of depression really forced me to come face to face with the pain of that trauma, the pain of that hurt, and feel it and be with it. And then that pain did really bloom into something beautiful. I was able to find strength afterwards and really reflect on the strength of my ancestors and all that they had done for me to be there, and that me being there was a form of resistance, and that if I could get through this, like I got through all the other things, like my ancestors got through all of their trauma, that I could be stronger, and that I could hold them in regard in their time. So knowing about healing is mostly hindsight, but it was a beautiful thing. It was more of a cocoon. It was more of an enwrapping, and then I was able to come out of there a different creature, or maybe actually unraveling and refinding my original self, because I had wrapped all this other masks around me and all these platitudes, pretending that I was okay, and then taking all those layers off and revealing my true self, the self that my ancestors gave me. So, Oyana.
Thanks, both of you. Yeah, that's a funny question, because like my industry is all about healing, allegedly. I guess for me, I would say, starting just from my youth, like my whole journey was one of healing, because it was like so weird. My youth, like upbringing, like the abuse and the chemical dependency around, and blah blah blah, all those stories which we could all revel in, But for me, I would say a tangible moment of healing was when I started to experience being a body, and not just thinking I had a body. And it's a subtle difference. It wasn't just knowing and seeing myself in the mirror or abusing this body to like fit into a particular shape, to look a certain way, to achieve certain things. It was actually at some point, and for me it was my late 30s, early 40s, that the stereotype joking midlife crisis, but also an amazing spiritual awakening as gravity pushes down. It was when I started to actually really practice my yoga, because I had been practicing for years, but instead of a workout, I was starting to discover this flesh, what was underneath the flesh, all of these things about me that I'm almost embarrassed to say I never really knew, like for decades, but to actually be able to touch myself, to breathe, to accept myself. And it's still a process, And for me, that was it was a moment, though. I remember there was a moment. I was in a yoga studio. I was like the only guy, of course, which is often the place. Probably the only person above 30 as well. And all around me, these people looked like, contortionists. They were doing their practice. And there was just some form that was suggested to do, and I was doing it, and the sweat was like beating off me, and I was forcing my body into this shape. But I just had that hit. Those God hits where you're like, whoa. You just can't like plan it. Everything aligns. You take a breath, maybe an exhale, and you just know this is what you need to do. I remember that day. I was in Ithaca, New York, landed the Iroquois, and I was in something called side angle lunge, which is hardly like a relaxing for many people situation, but I don't know, I just knew it. I was starting to find myself at 40, So for me, that was a very healing journey, and it's really awakened my whole vocation, my whole job is to maybe share that experience with somebody else. So thanks for that question.
Aperazuk. So I'm I'm going to interweave a poem that came to me this morning. That's one of my favorite poems. That the more that I lean into it, the more profound the words. It's by Mary Oliver, called Wild Geese. And in Washington, where I spend a good chunk of my time right now, I was in Kalama, which is down in southern Washington, and I saw these big flocks of geese, and I took pictures of them, sent them to my nephew Matthew, who's a big goose hunter, and I'm like, they're coming, Matthew, be ready. And at the same time, we have this connection to animals, right? As far as our traditional foods and the importance of them, and the connection to just our vitality and well-being, and the respect that we have for them as they come every year. And things are changing, but we look forward to our traditional foods and the animals that come and remind us that the circular journey around the sun is happening, and we're going to be cared for. So, wild geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscape, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. And I think it's really important as we look at healing is, I think what we heard so far in this first round of discussion is that it's about being who you are and being connected to who you are, and finally realizing that. And your connection to our ancestors and our elders, to be able to sit with ourselves and resonate with all that we've gone through and all that our families have gone through for generations, and to heal that. It's a powerful thing. And it's a powerful thing to be in our bodies and to just be who we are and to be accepting of ourselves for who we are. Because often we're our biggest critic. As I shared yesterday, I had an awakening that transformed my life in a way that I started to get to the point where I accepted myself for who I was, and in so doing, I allowed other people to accept who they were. And it's such a freeing moment to just be who you are. It's like all of a sudden, the things that you used to do to maybe censor what you said or how you acted or just being comfortable in your own skin, all that energy now is free to do other things. And it's so liberating to just truly let the soft animal of your body love what it loves, just to be who you are. And that the gift of this body, the gift of this spirit, the soul that you have, the purpose that you have. And I've seen it time and time again as people just become who they are. There's this awakening in their life and all this energy is liberated. We talked about things that give us energy and things that aren't so much fun, that seem to take away our energy. And when we shift our focus, some things that used to seem like time sucks all of a sudden become joy, right? It's about your mind and how you look at things and how you are in your body, that groundedness. And of course, as Aaron started us out with grounding and connection, that breath, powerful healing takes place. And it's day by day. I saw a chart once that showed healing, and it was, rather than this linear line, it was all over the place, right? Because, you never ever quite get it. And all of a sudden you get thrown this sometimes overwhelming situation. And it's okay, here's your next opportunity to heal. Mary's example of, she'd gone through the surgery, and now another thing where the healing, the deeper healing of letting that hardware go. There's maybe some parallels in there. So those are just a couple of reflections. Our next question is, how do we overcome the harms we've experienced to build our collective liberated future? So
for myself, in the line of work that we did for many years, we've heard people say they're not from the community, and they come back and they say there's no resources in that community. That used to be hurtful sometimes, because there's many resources in villages. There's VPSOs, there's elders, there's health aides, there's even school janitor, there's school cooks that work with the young people. So we had to educate our other people, not just our people, but other people, that there's many resources in the communities. And we have to honor each and every one of those communities, because they're there when there's a suicide in the community, when there's a homicide in the community. They're there to help out in that community before help comes in from outside. So there are many resources in the community. One of the things that was developed when I was working for Yukon Kuskokwim Health Corporation, we developed a resource team in the community, putting all those resources, maybe 8 of them. There's a church member, maybe a couple of elders, 1 parent, health aide, VPSO, develop those teams so that when we enter into a community, we have people to meet first before we enter into the community. That's the way we honored the villages we visited through that resource team. And we trained those resource team also, and also many of them had certifications like counselor or other certifications to be the greeting people of new people coming into communities. So those are the ways that were helpful for us. Even from those villages, I'm still a visitor to another community when I'm invited, and I have to contact the resource people before entering. That's the proper way to enter a community that many of us need to know. Many of those resource teams we developed, they were done away with because of the social workers and clinicians. They were done away with after I left. I understand that they're not existing in villages anymore. That was a good, proper way to honor that community and through those resource people, because they know their people. They introduced us to whoever's inviting us to that community to do work, recovery or substance abuse or any kind of entry. That team knew who to contact and have us visit their tribal council or the city council or the school when we enter a community. That's to honor those people in that community. The proper way we wanted to do that, because sometimes people enter and they just go to the school and the parents don't know that something was going on, that maybe they might have wanted to be part of whatever's going on in the school. So those kinds of things we had to think about to honor our community before we entered into visiting the community. Because many of our villages, they're not all the same. They're not all the same. And so to honor them, we had resource teams in the communities to proper way to enter a community. That worked out really good when we're invited to a community. That team that know that invitation happened, that team is the one that locate different people. What do you want to hear in this community? Because we're gonna invite some people that have that expertise in the information you want. We'll invite them. So that team knows heard from their people because they met with them before we enter the community. So that was the proper way we entered the villages we've visited, because they had a team. They had elder students or other people that we could enter and meet their tribal council, city council, or the school through the resource people. That was the way we honored the villages before entering into a community, even upon invitation. So that's the way we entered. If they wanted some things for us to bring in to educate the young people or the community. And another thing that's very helpful in traveling and honoring a community is to sometimes bring in food. Food that brings people together. So sometimes we'd bring in groceries and things to have during that meeting time so that there's food available for people that are at the meeting, because we like to eat. And when we eat, we open the hearts when people eat, we open their hearts and they're willing to share with you, after having food. That opens the hearts of people. That's the best way to get to know another person, is invite them to eat. Young people too. My daughter and I used to invite her friends, go out in restaurant. I used to invite them, let's go to a restaurant. And that's the way you get to know young people, the way they talk, the way they communicate, the way they interact with each other, and the way they recognize you, And so one of the best ways that I did that was involve young people along with my daughter to go out in a restaurant. And I get to know those young people, and we invite them to our home sometimes, because sometimes maybe one of them or two of them don't have that kind of life in their homes. So if you want to reach young people, invite them, eat with them, do things that are fun things with them. In that way you get to know how they act, how they behave. Maybe you get to know someone's family member in that group that doesn't have any visitors or anybody communicating with them. So that's one of the best ways to, if we want to get to know young people, invite them. Have them into your home and eat with them, or even bring them with your sons or daughters to a restaurant. Listen to them. They'll bring laughter, they'll bring tears, they'll bring stories that maybe you haven't heard said by their parents or anyone, because their parents don't ever go to gatherings or places to meet with people. So those are some of the helpful ways that we interacted with different people, with food also. That opens the hearts of people when we have food.
I love that. The things that I heard Elizabeth say are emphasized were consent, talking to and gathering resources, and building collective knowledge for the future. I think one of the more significant memories I have of the different types of care that folks tried when I was suffering from acute clinical depression was just coming and sitting with me and accepting me where I was in that time and space. There are many folks that were ready for me to be done with this healing, and wanted me to go outside, wanted to see me do the things that I used to love and do. But what was most meaningful were the individuals that just, I'm coming over and I'm just going to sit with you. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to feed me. You don't have to take care of me. I'm just going to be here. And I think that that's something that I had to learn in caring for and being with my family that had a different path in overcoming their intergenerational harm and the epigenetic trauma. My path was running for escape, and they maybe chose to have a complicated relationship with substances, and just to accept and be with them as they were, in the mess and in the mire, and know that is part of their journey and part of the healing, because that's painful, and we have to get through the pain to get to the other side. So that was a significant realization for me, was just to first accept and first be, and then ask for consent, and gathering resources. When you're ready, what can we do? When you're ready, can we talk about how we used to be? Remember when we went to fish camp and played together? Remember when we danced together? Remember those times? Can we get back to those times? When you feel like eating, what can I bring you? Getting that consent built in, and reminding us that we do have lots of resources. And the work that I do with Latouche Lachiche, we center culture and returning to culture. And we had a table out here yesterday with some rose that was love and protection centered. That's what Rose's spiritual knowledge that gives to us. And so we have these resources. The plants are our ancestors too. They teach us that ayuk, the Labrador tea, that's so healing, right? And that gives you calm and strength and healing. So learn from, we know that going into the woods creates new neural pathways. So go and be with those trees and talk to them. And they've been around longer than we have. They've been around with our ancestors. So it's a way to be with our ancestors. So gathering resources and asking for consent. And knowing, though, also that we have that resource because our ancestors had it and they survived. And when we do plant medicine with our group, a lot of our leaders are like, "Oh, I'm just new to plant medicine, so I don't really know anything." And so, I'm just starting off on this. And I realized that they were sort of saying that over and over again as the day went on. And it dawned on me yesterday as we were talking about ancestors. We're not new to this plant medicine. We have it in ourselves. It's in our DNA. We have thousands of years of knowledge right here, and that is a resource. So knowing yourself is a huge resource. And one of our guiding quotes is from Dr. Walter Soboleff, who some of you may know. If you know yourself, you won't hurt yourself. And knowing your own self, being yourself, your family members and your friends, that's part of yourself. We're all connected. The larger community, our state, our world. That is how we heal. That is how we move forward. That we know ourselves and each other, and know that we have the strength, and know that we have the power and the ability and the energy. Guyana.
Thanks for your words. I love that you keep coming back to remember. I just feel like remembering is so much of the work that I do with people. I would probably have a really different answer in many different contexts for this question. But the more I practice with people in situations where their freedom has been completely taken away, whether that's someone who may have done a crime, but we know the justice system isn't so discerning about that whole story, right? And there's other stories behind it. Or whether I sit with a child at North Star who has been taken away and is in this really foreign environment trying to be healed, whatever that is, I feel like if there's any hope for the future, and I'll be honest, sometimes I'm like, is there hope? I don't know. I listen to the news. I experience talking to my peers or people who are younger or older, and I'm like, we're doomed, sometimes, but I'll just be honest. And for me, like, being honest like that is part of a little bit of the future for me, is really being honest and speaking one's truth. I feel like a lot of my work is offering the gift of individual freedom, personalized liberation, because people are in systems, at least where I work, where they don't have a lot of freedom and they have very little agency to be able to stand up for themselves. I think about Judith Herman, which some of you may have read, which I feel like is such a better person who describes trauma than The Body Keeps the Score. That's a great book. We can all intellectualize about it and discover, but Judith Herman really nails it, I think, when she says trauma is created by the reduction and the taking away of freedom, right? Whether it's domestic violence, whether it's abuse, alcoholism, generational. Many of you, like me, have probably had our freedom taken from us at a very early age. And we're continued, I feel like, offered opportunities to continue not being ourselves. We're all carrying around devices that we can check into at any moment and be tracked, right? We go to schools which often tell us how to be someone else. We learn success models that are all about fitting into someone's form. And honestly, growing up Italian, North African, Irish, and Jewish, can I be any more marginalized? I never fit into the white group, but I was like white, so allegedly. And all I learned was how to be this thing. And then when I wanted to have my own freedom, the systems that I feel like have been given us, they only create more bondage, And we're often shared with that. We're like, you've got to get a certificate. You've got to have the right training. What if you just do it? Maybe like the one amazing thing Nike did was actually say, just do it, right? Just do it. Don't buy Nikes, but do it, right? Do it. We all have. At least this is like the basic yoga belief, not like Warrior 2 or Downward Dog or stretching out your hamstrings. Buff. That has nothing to do with yoga. Yoga is a connection to your inward spark, right? You can call it whatever you want. We all have a name for it. And I feel like until we put everything away, the credentials, the identifiers, the official systems, and we start trusting ourselves, then maybe we can trust others. And we can start to imagine, even if I don't have everything I'm supposed to have, I can still just start making something happen. I bet some of you have been the creators of institutions or the creators of organizations, or maybe it's like really big, or maybe it's just something small, like a book club, who knows? But when you started to stepping into that, maybe your experience is mine. 1 million people told me how to do it. All sorts of books were out there at Barnes & Noble telling me how to do it. But I just started walking into that question. And the development of my organization, Turia, has I would probably get an F from most business teachers from how that worked. It was an organic structure that kind of emerged from me just taking a step. And then the people who I met, they've been my teachers. And if I've learned anything about yoga, gosh, it's men in yellow scrubs. Kids in blue scrubs at North Star, And they've told me about yoga just by practicing with them, being with them. And I just feel like if someone maybe has an opportunity to experience themselves, then I've done my work. And who knows what that moment of being with yourself can do. That's what I feel like. And maybe that's a little radical, and I don't mean to knock systems, but I feel it's time we just take our own health back and start to believe in ourselves, at least for me. Thanks.
I think it's time to knock systems. And to question how we've done things, right? I think it is. It's time to to look at our youth and the cycles within families, intergenerational trauma, and systemic racism, and the things that have kept our peoples incarcerated. And the revolving door where you see certain families where you have a consistent, it's like expectation that people will end up in certain places. Yeah. Breaking these systemic failures. Yeah. Right? And so I just really applaud you in your work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I love what you said about going to communities and already seeing what's there. The healing, I feel like for us, is already there. I mean, we've all colored as kids. We've all played in forests or grass or just creatively played. What if we start to do that? And instead of thinking all this seriousness, we could actually play our way into freedom. Wouldn't that be kind of amazing in certain respect? Yeah.
So we're already almost out of time. This has been really, really wonderful. And I think we're building a momentum here the last couple of days as we look at, care and self-care, loving ourselves first, and being a conduit of love for our community and our families and friends. And today, as far as healing is a journey. It's, one where we recognize the assets in communities, and we don't go into communities thinking we're going to fix them. That part of the system needs to change. As researchers and those of us who are working in communities, we just had a really great example of what we should be doing and how we should interact with communities and respect communities and the wisdom that communities have and the healing that they already have, the capacity to heal they have. We just need to help align and be a catalyst and support that healing. And be respectful. Number one, always be respectful. And to take the time to do the work, right? I've been in enough communities and have gotten enough reflection that you don't fly in and fly out 2 hours later and expect to have made a really big impact. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. Yes, we're told by our systems that you only have that much money in your budget, and God forbid you get stuck in a community, which never use that word when you're in a community. Extended stays are welcome, right? Plan enough time, because healing isn't something that happens like that. And it's a journey. It's a journey of discovery, and we're only ready when we're ready. And as Dr. Rita shared time and time again, Gary, it's okay when it's not okay. To be in that moment where healing is a journey, and healing is usually painful. That's part of the journey, and we avoid it. We like to self-medicate that. It's not comfortable. But as you lean into it, a yoga metaphor, as you lean into it, you often realize that and you breathe into it, you can actually have profound realization even in that pain. It's really amazing. And I think the journey that we have in our communities, each one of us have gifts to share and wisdom to share, and to recognize that when we're working in community, and to realize we can't do it alone. Some of us don't like to give up things. We don't like to let others help us because we want it done a certain way. And that's the recipe for burnout. And it's a journey, a long journey. I was talking with some colleagues yesterday as we were completing. It's like we've been working together for 20 years on a lot of these topics. And when we look back, it's like, wow, we have made incredible gains. There are certain things we're talking about now that we have never talked about, that it's about time. The Alaska Children's Trust created the History and Hope curricula, which is continuing to evolve. And when it first got deployed, it was a lot about on adverse childhood experiences and a little bit heavy. And the feedback I got was like, what are you leaving us with? It's like, we know now, of course, our chronic disease is connected to trauma, but what kind of tools can we use to fix it? And that's kind of the so what now. It's like there's a lot of tools. There's culturally connected tools. Culture is medicine. Nature is medicine. Plants and traditional ways of healing and knowing is deep medicine. And we need to respect that. We have incredible assets. We have these bright spots in communities. We just need to recognize them. There is hope right in our midst. It's not outside there. It's within us. So we're right on the edge of 11 o'clock, so our time is out, but this has been such an honor to talk story with you here today, meet some kindred spirits, as well as our collective wisdom that we get to share as we reflect together and riff off each other's insights. I think we're moving along the way towards healing. And each one of us reflected that as we look at our own journey of healing, right, and realization. And it's never too late. I don't care how old you are, to look in the mirror and be more comfortable with yourself, to love yourself for who you are. Some of us didn't grow up with those opportunities, and we have elders that are coming to, like, culture camps are really a really amazing thing in our region now as we revitalize our connection to our culture and our way of knowing, our language and our traditions. And we have elders now that come to our culture nights and our camps. And I just see this incredible healing happens as they do for the first time make regalia, or dance, or sing, or learn Unangam Tunu, our language. I mean, there's tears that get shed because they're finally reconnecting. And it's the opportunity. I'm like, it's never too late. It's okay. Young people who don't know how to do certain things culturally, it's okay. There's nothing to be ashamed of. The fracturing that took place because of colonization and intentional harm, that's not your fault. It's our opportunity now to heal, and healing is happening. It's happening in this room. It's happening in each one of our lives, and it's so beautiful to see that unfold. So it's been an honor to help facilitate these discussions the last 3 days, and our wonderful guests up here today, Kagasakuk. Thank you so much.
Hello and miigwech. Very many thanks to our panelists this morning. I always think I have something really powerful that I'm going to say, and then I'm kind of awestruck, like what just happened. I don't know. The one thing, though, that really struck me about the conversations this morning is that healing. They talked a lot about healing and resources within our communities, and what I noticed was that nobody said this particular agency was what helped heal me, this particular agency or that agency or this organization. What they talked about were relationships and connections with humans and people and learning from the things within our own community. And I feel like that really is what's very powerful. And honestly, I think that is what's so different about this particular symposium, is that we are here as individuals and as people and sharing our humanness with each other as we're being real about our pain, the things we're going through, the things we experience, and how we're healing together. And I feel like it's not the agency that you're working for or who you're coming or your work, it's the people you're meeting, and it's the people in this room, and it's the relationships that you're creating. And I think that's one of the most important pieces that we need to take from this experience is the connections that we're making, because what I see in this room is resources everywhere. And it's not the agencies that's listed on your name tags. It's not, the badges that you're wearing. It's the relationships, and the people in this room are the resources. And so I'm just going to spend some time right now highlighting that we have such incredible resources in these relationships that we're forming this week. And I know you've seen quite a few of us on stage and in other areas talking about being a regional co-chair for the Alliance, but I really want to highlight what we do as regional co-chairs and the impact that we can have when we come together, because the Alliance is, so first of all, we all know Alaska is huge. We're very different geographically all over. And so as Jess mentioned the other day, we have regional co-chairs who kind of represent different regions throughout the state. And our role really is to help bring the Alliance to our communities and to our regions, but also bring folks into the Alliance. And we are here as resources. We don't have all of the knowledge, but we do have a connection with all of you. We have a connection through the Alliance, and we have, established relationships with so many people across the state. So I want to take a few minutes right now to bring our regional co-chairs up on stage so that you all can get a chance to really see who is here from the Alliance that are representing your regions. And so let's come on up. We gotta get Aaron up here. Awesome. So the Alliance, we've kind of broken down the state in a different regions. So we have the northern region, southwest and the Aleutians, Anchorage, Matsu, the Gulf Coast, interior, and southeast. And we're going to kind of break that down even more for you all to know what exactly where our regions are. But I just want to give us all a minute to share our regions. And as you share what region you represent, I want everybody in the room from that region to stand up. And then you look at each other and see if you recognize everybody. And if there's somebody that you don't know and they're standing up and they're in your region, get to know them today. Take a few minutes to say hi and connect. And if you haven't already made a personal connection with your regional co-chair, take some time to do that today as well. And I will also add that we do need more regional co-chairs because we are a big state and we have some spaces so I'm also here to recruit you. So, Aaron, can I start? I'll hand the mic down to you. You can make everybody do some jazz hands and.
It's only fitting that's alphabetical order, right? Curse my Aaron name. So, Aaron, you've met me over the past few days. I'm with the Anchorage South Central region. I've shared that I've been from the Aleutians, but I don't represent that area, but I feel well connected with our region chair from there as well. So for those that are in Anchorage, can I get you to, I won't do jazz hands, but if you can just stand up. Awesome. So there's some folks that I'm familiar with, I've seen, yeah. Okay, we can do jazz hands. Go ahead, let's do jazz hands. So as you know, I'm the funny one out of the group, in case you haven't, just kidding. But I'd love to take some more time to meet with the folks I haven't had a chance to meet with yet. I feel like the work that we do is really important, and that connection to just be genuine about it and just see where everybody's at within the Anchorage area and what I can do to work with folks to support each other with substance misuse. My work primarily is with youth, but I feel like that goes beyond that as well because youth are always interacting with adults as well and other community members. So seeing what we can do there. I do have a shameless plug. I will say that I've been working on town halls, and I am getting ready to do another town hall here on April 19th. So that is youth-led. They sit on a panel and they share their stories about their challenges or interactions with underage drinking. So I'd love to see some folks from here in Anchorage be part of that that activity, that process, and support the youth. So thank you again, jazz hands from my group. Yeah, let's be the loud ones, huh? All right.
Good morning, everyone. I realize I haven't had a chance to introduce myself. I've been up here a couple of times, but my name is Aisha Twitchell. I was born and raised in Bethel. I moved to the Valley in 2005. I work for Knik Tribe, and I'm the SPF grant administrator for our prevention grant to reduce or prevent underage alcohol use and marijuana use in the Valley. I work with a really fabulous group of regional co-chairs and the Alliance as well. This has been really rewarding work, working with our community who really would like to see a healthy Alaska. And could I have my region stand up, Matsu region? All right, we got a few of you. That good. I'm glad you guys are here. And so I do a lot of work with youth and youth healing and prevention work throughout our region, and I'm very, very passionate about it. So glad you all are here. We've had some awesome anchor sessions, and these last, a lot of the learning and educational opportunities. And yesterday, I was getting the chills, hearing some of these people talk, and I was thinking, are those my ancestors, or am I just cold in here? So, yeah, it was pretty funny, but anyhow, thanks.
Can you tell why I love these people? I love these people that are on stage with me, but I also want to say I love all of you. My name is Jenna, and I already introduced myself this morning. Probably failed to do that yesterday, but I work with the Aleutian Pribilof Islands Association, and so, of course, I represent my Unangak cousins. Are there any people from the Aleutian Pribilof Islands? Yay! Beautiful. And I'm here to serve, and I'm here to come alongside, and I'm really good at connection. That's my superpower. I love connecting with people and coming alongside them and supporting them and loving you into yourself. I love that. And it's beautiful to me. So, and just a little side note, David, before I came to the Aleutian Pribilof Islands, I worked at North Star as a group therapist and absolutely loved working with the kids there. And we gotta talk.
Hello, everyone. Not too sure if I introduced myself yet. My name is Johan. I am one of two co-chairs of Southeast Alaska, and I just love the connection. And I just want to thank everyone on stage, my colleagues, for being who they are. You all truly are an inspiration for me, and for you all for showing up. And so I just want to repeat on what was said. It's really important for us to network, for us to build connections, for us to draw each other's strength. Because every single person in this room can teach you something. Every single person in this room can help you in one way or another. That's how we go into these spaces as co-chairs. We could learn something from each and every single one of you all. And that won't happen unless we connect, unless we network and make this state of Alaska smaller by us supporting each other. So Southeast Alaska, any Southeast Alaskans in the house? Represent? Yeah, there we go. Yes, so I look forward to continuing to network and collaborate and strengthen our state, because we all want the same thing. We all want our state to be healthy and strong for this generations and many to come.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Talila Beatis. Talila means golden eagle in Koyukon Athabascan. My family's from the interior of Alaska, and I'm really glad to be here. I'm probably the most serious one out of this whole group. I can just make anybody cry, and that's okay because we all need to heal. So what I really like to do is just build connections between people. People are like, oh, we need this. I'm like, oh, I know someone. And so that's kind of a lot of what I do, and just focus on healing our people, our youth. I work with youth through a school district, and really what I'm focusing on right now is just trying to heal all the losses that we've had. I'll be presenting on the grief recovery method later today, but what I've been thinking about is we're just trying to build this workforce. There's so much talk about like all these jobs, but it's an unhealed workforce because we've all lost so much through COVID and whatnot. And so that's what I do. Thank you. Oh, and is there anyone from the interior? I know Brenda is, but I haven't really. Thank you.
Hello again. I'm Stephanie Stillwell. I am the regional co-chair for the Gulf Coast, and people who live on the Gulf Coast probably don't even know what that is. We're the other space in Alaska. We're the Kenai Peninsula, Kodiak Island, Cordova, and Valdez. So it's a little strange region. And we are looking for someone from the Cordova Valdez area for a regional co-chair. So if you know anybody, we're looking for somebody there. But yeah, I live in Soldotna, but Homer was my home for 5 years, and the Kenai, the Central Peninsula, has been my home for the past 3.5. And so that's where I'm at geographically. I work statewide, and I love connecting and networking, and so it's my passion to really be the connector. I don't know a lot about one thing, but I know a little bit about everything, and I know a lot of people who do know things. So that's what my specialty area is, I like to say. So if you have a question, I don't know the answer, but I know somebody who does. So, and a lot of that might be from these people standing next to me. So can I get my Gulf Coast folks to stand up? All right. Very good. Yay. All right. And I'm going to hand it off to you.
Hi there. My name is Lloyd Platz, and I'm one of the other Southeast Regional co-chairs along with Johan. And I'm out of Sitka, Wisconsin. I used to come from Wisconsin, Sitka, Alaska. So I guess I see myself kind of as a filler. I'm not out front very much, which is why you haven't seen me much this time. But one of the things that we're doing in the Southeast Alaska is that we do have the SEEK Coalition, we call it the Southeast Alaska Coalition. And if there's organizations in the Southeast that would like to be part of that, we come together, share what we're doing in our community, share our resources with each other, get support from each other, and just build that connection. I often think that when we talk about love and healing and caring, it's really about that connection. And so that's where I see my role, is helping our regions to connect. And it's part of the reason I joined the Alliance. I remember back, I think it was 2019, when we first come together and began wondering, what the heck is this all about? And what I discovered, it was a group of people that came together that care about the communities that we live in. and want to connect with each other, because it's through that connection that we really heal not only ourselves but our communities and each other. So that's why I chose to be a part of it and to continue to be a part of it. Although I am trying to retire, for the last 2 years I've been trying to retire, and I think it's going to happen on January 19th, which is my birthday next year. I'll be done for a while. I discovered for myself that oftentimes my whole life I was doing, and I want to take some time just to be. And I think that's part of that self-care, is that oftentimes we are so busy, we do, and it's important just to be. And so that's kind of where I am right now. But I do see myself very much as a filler. If something needs to get done, I'll jump in there. But if there's somebody else that wants to do it, I let them. That's part of self-care too, I think. So.
Sorry, I just have to say Lloyd is not a filler, and we value him very much with this group. He brings so much wisdom, and when we are stuck, because we are all just kind of like, what should we do? And he always brings an answer, and his wisdom and his knowledge, and we will miss him so much if he retires. And I could make myself cry, but no, I won't. But yeah, he's not a filler.
So this is the current team. As you see that we don't have a current regional co-chair for our northern region. So our northern folks in the room, stand up. We found our regional co-chair. All right. So we do, let me grab my handy notes here. Yeah, we're looking to fill some more regional co-chairs in the northern areas, Bethel and YK. Another person for the rural interior, and of course the Cordova Valdez area. So that's my plug. If you are very interested in learning more about what we as regional co-chairs do, definitely reach out to any one of us. We'll make sure to share our contact information. If it's not already on a slide, let's get it on a slide so you guys can write it all down. But really our role as regional co-chairs varies in each region. We really spend time digging into what our region's needs are, what our communities needs are, and so one of us does something very different than the other. While Aaron's working on town halls, Johanna is doing something completely different, and Till is, so it's very dependent. So that's what's really awesome about having us as regional co-chairs, because we really try to make it about what the community's needs are. And so with that, I lost my train of thought there. We just really want to make sure to get to know you all and help bring the Alliance closer to you, and for you to be closer to the Alliance. And however, whatever your needs are, if you have something going on in your community, feel free to reach out to us and see if the Alliance can help. So do any of you have anything else to add?
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands. Awesome. Thank you. And Jenna, I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's have jazz hands again for my regional co-chairs. And for Liz, I love you. Thank you for being here today. You made my whole heart happier when I was hearing you talk today. So I want to thank Liz, and I want to thank Mary and David for being here, and for Dr. Gary being the facilitator this morning in our anchoring session. And I would like to remind everybody before we go to lunch that during lunch, please go and experience the exhibitors tables. We actually have one at APIA, and the man that we just hired last week is manning that booth over there, and his name is Jeff. Go and say hi to Jeff for me. He is a veteran, and so thank him for his service. He served our country for 22 years. And so, yeah, please visit with each other during lunch. Welcome the canines. They're going to be in room 1. And so go and see those sweet puppy dogs if you want to have your heart open just a little bit more. Animals are so healing to me. My Chiweenie always reminds me that she's the healer in the house, not me. And she teaches me every day. Mama goes to have her morning tinkle, and her hands are like, her front paws are up on my knees like, good morning, Mom. I know that's TMI, but we're all human, right? Okay, so go and see those little puppy dogs and let them heal your heart and say hi to you. So please, if you have dietary restrictions, you need a special meal, please make our hosts aware of that, and we can help you out with that. And without any further ado, my new friend, Brenda Hanna, can you join me up here on stage? Brenda is from the interior, and one of the only people that we have here, I think, from the interior. Is that right? That's what I saw. Brenda, could you say our blessing, please? Thank you so much.
Thank you. I just want to say that I'm reminded as we talk about healing today, I think about the caterpillar and how the caterpillar built their cocoon thinking it was the end of their life. And then they came forth as a beautiful butterfly. And I think everybody in this room has their own story to share in their time of healing and how they've, I believe that's probably what brought everybody to this place and helping capacity is because we've all gone through our own trauma or our own healing. So please pray with me if you would. Father, I thank you for this opportunity to come to this place, and what a wonderful opportunity it's been, and the spirit in this place, and the people, and each one wants to share and be heard. And Father, we're just grateful that you've brought us all here. And I pray for each person that has shared their story, or each person that's going to be teaching in the next 2 hours, Lord, that you would just give them a measure of your grace and your blessing, and Lord, that you would just help their story to be heard, and that people could be touched by that. And Lord, we thank you for everything that we've heard and experienced over the last few days. And Lord, it's no surprise that we're here. I feel that you've brought us here, and I thank you for that. Father, I thank you for the food. I thank you for these wonderful people, and Lord, I pray a special blessing on each one of them. Lord, thank you for this day. In Jesus' name, amen.